Welcome to the Author Your Life podcast, where you can write a new script for your life and become the hero of your story. I'm your host, David McRae. You are the author of your life. Let's get started.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hello, story changers, and welcome back to another Isolation Inspiration interview. Today's guest is Adele Wang. Adele specialises in helping professionals who have achieved success but who struggle with anxiety, disconnection, and confusion on their purpose. With 10 years experience as a mentor, coach, and spiritual guide, she helps people get out of overwhelm and stress to find their calling so that their personal and professional lives can expand and flourish. Adele is a licensed Art of Feminine Presence instructor, an experienced energy healer, and a writer. She works with people all over the world and leads retreats for female business leaders who want to show up bigger in the world and make more impact. In our interview today, you will learn: intellectualizing a problem doesn't help you solve it. Adele's interactive practice for finding your emotional center. The difference between gratitude and appreciation. And that after coronavirus, we may actually long for the days of isolation again. You're going to learn this and so much more in this interview with Adele Wang. Adele, welcome to the Author Your Life podcast.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Adele, I'd like to give you the opportunity to kick things off. And could you share with us today some of your story? What has shaped who you are and what you're doing now in your life?
Well, I wish I could tell you that I was somebody who struggled with a horrible disease and recovered, or climbed Mount Everest and saw enlightenment at the top of the mountain, or I'm a top athlete and this is what I learned out of making millions of dollars. But I am talking about a journey where a lot of people can relate. It's invisible. It looks good on the outside. And so there's often this feeling of, what do I have to complain about? What do I have to offer? I haven't climbed Mount Everest. I haven't survived a disease. How can I possibly be of any real inspiration or new voice in the world? In my case, it was about 30 years of depression. And it wasn't the clinical kind. And I think a lot of your listeners can probably feel into this. There's nothing technically wrong. And life starts to feel kind of not very enjoyable. You're just sort of putting in the time. There's nothing, the highs, you don't really feel anything exciting. Life seems to be a lot of work. Work for me was my mantra, because I thought, well, this is life. Life is supposed to be work. The idea that life could be enjoyable was a completely alien concept to me. And I struggled for many years with social anxiety. I didn't know how to relate to people. I knew how to talk at them, but I was raised to drop into a state of, David, if you were telling me a problem or something like that, I'm instantly trying to think of something clever to say, or advise, or something that I think would be funny. So for me, being with people was a lot of work. I didn't know how to just, hang out like what we're doing. That connection is really more of an energetic process than an intellectual or data information loop. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was raised to be a high achiever, smart, helpful, and understanding. And I really thought that if you just did those three things around everybody, your boss, whoever you're dating, your family, as long as you can be smart, helpful, and understanding, that you should be pretty successful in this life. And I was miserable. And I didn't know why, because the outside looked good. And I think in our modern world, this is a deep level of suffering that people don't see. They're like, I'm not fighting an illness. I'm not, struggling to make ends meet. But inside, I feel nothing. And the turnaround for me was, well, first I'll just share. I thought, well, if I'm depressed or if I'm upset, the solution is more self-help. More books. I got to work on myself. If I got a problem, I got to work on myself. And so, even the nature of the problem, since I didn't know how to be, and something's not right, I'll just work it more. And I see this so much right now with my clients. Most of the people working with me are working on themselves really hard. And there is value in understanding what this cranium's doing. But I didn't think we were anything else but thoughts, and so the worse things got, the more I worked on myself. Can you relate to this? My self-help book, I'll turn the camera around. I mean, I had every book. I read every single one of them. Or it's therapy, which is fine. But I noticed that in our very intellectualized spirituality world, what's happening is people understand themselves, but they don't feel any better. There's great insight. Even if you've figured out a story or whatever it is, great. That's awesome. But what I've noticed is that's not always enough to get the heart feeling better. You just understand your problems better. So I typically get people who've done a lot of personal development. They've been on retreats and they've read the self-help book, and they can explain to me why they are a certain way. Oh, my mom was this, my dad was that. I inherited blah, blah. And I'm like, that's great. Does this make you feel any better? And because I'm very pragmatic, if it makes people feel better, that's the only thing that matters. So I don't really care how much people know. I care, what's your inner experience? You could be brilliant with the human psyche and thoughts. And I also have a lot of people that have done intense spiritual development. So they're talking about things more metaphysical, chakras, past lives, crystal healing, and all that. And I'm like, great. Does that make you feel any better? And if it does, great. And if not, let's not keep hammering that. Because if it worked, it would have worked by now. So this was really my journey, that I eventually hit a point where I could not work on myself anymore. I had done it, and I was miserable. And, I had a big corporate career. I was successful. And inside, when I went home every day, it was just empty. But I was around people. So I was probably the most social, lonely person you ever met. Can you relate? I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. Most of my clients are high functioning. You wouldn't know. And in the back of their mind, there's always a seeking. Like, what have I missed? And I really struggled with this. And then one day, maybe you can relate, as a single woman, the thing that tipped me over the edge was I was dating this guy and it blew up. And I remember at that point, I was done. There was a sense that I cannot keep trying to be smart, helpful, and understanding anymore. I'm done. I have done everything humanly possible to be smart, helpful, and understanding in this relationship. I don't know if your listeners can relate to this, but I was working that relationship. I was turning myself inside and out to be a good partner. And when it blew up, something inside of me just went click, like, this isn't working. And if I don't find an answer to this, I'm not going to stick around. I'm just not going to bother with this thing. How many more years of life is this? Oh, average lifespan. I mean, I was thinking this way. Can you relate, David? Have you been through this? It's like, if the average humanoid lives, 85 years, and I'm 28, how many more years is that? And honestly, I mean, that's how I thought. I wasn't suicidal in an active way, but I was already thinking, if I don't find a way to make this experience on planet Earth more enjoyable, it's not worth it. That's why I really take a stand on this type of invisible suffering. That's why I love what you're doing on your podcast. Absolutely love it. Because it's showing people that there are different flavors of suffering. Everybody's got a different story. And sometimes it is, your house burned down or you dealt with cancer or something like that. And it's just as painful sometimes when no one can see it. So anyway, when that happened, okay, this guy ghosted me, which is even worse. No less. Hey, I'm calling. He's disappeared. I decided I'm done. If I don't find a solution, I'm not going to stick around. I'm just going to leave. And I went on a very deep personal quest. I had tried a little bit of therapy. It kind of worked. Now, maybe it wasn't the best match. You know how it's so important
Yeah.
to get a good match. And it's possible I didn't find the right person. And through a series of events, and I won't go into it now, I met, well, maybe the divine, just, you know how it is. This book falls off the shelf or you meet someone. And I started to work with some spiritual teachers from around the world. And they said, get in here. You have analyzed yourself to death. It's not working. Stop. And so I started doing a bunch of work that at first, I didn't tell anybody. I don't want the people at AT&T to know I'm doing any of this. I mean, because they would, in corporate, I don't know, David, but in corporate, perception is reality.
Yeah.
And if people find out, it's like, what are they going to think of me, right? So I had this big firewall between what the corporate folks at AT&T knew about me. I'm this competent analyst, and on this side, I had a very personal inner world that very few people knew. I'm going off and doing things that are less well known, and I really am not analyzing myself anymore. So deep body of work, a lot of things. I started learning a lot about the essence of people. It's not always a bucket of thoughts or emotions. There's a masculine essence, there's a feminine essence, and I work with a lot of women to turn that back on so that life can feel more juicy and radiant. And I work with men too. Part of my work is just bringing that awareness of the feminine and masculine back into our culture, because I think we're sort of meeting in the middle. Especially in personal growth, sometimes there's not an awareness that men might prefer something a little bit different than women, and vice versa. Just, it's not putting one above the other. It's just, hey, we got some differences. And it's lovely to bring that in so that there can be a mutual respect instead of bashing the other side, And so once I did that, I had never planned to work with clients. I was just trying to survive this thing called life. And maybe you too. I was listening into your story. Did you ever have any idea you'd be doing this? I mean, like, I kind of wanted to have more impact. Never thought I would be, smart enough to help other people. I'm just trying to survive this thing called life by myself. But once I started doing this work, I was doing a lot of meditation. The sight came in. I see people's energies. It's something I had when I was little. Like around you, I see a lot of blue and purple, which is beautiful. I can see it through the camera. And this, when we were talking before the start, I'm like, you speak older than your physical age. And that's a compliment. Oh my God, I'm so glad what you're doing with this podcast. It's going to help a lot of people. So I am so honored to be part of this because I feel like it's the collective. I think your work is very important. And so I'm doing my thing, and then clients started showing up I'd be in the AT&T boardroom, and some VP would pull me aside. I've got this ache in my shoulder, and I'm like, get here. So we would do a conference, shut the door, and I would do stuff it's energy work, and they don't know that it's deeply tied to the internal. They don't need to know. I'm not gonna, as long as it works. How do you feel? Oh, I feel better. Great. So these two worlds started to come together. Clients started showing up. I never thought I'd be doing this as a full-time livelihood, but more and more people came, and I started enjoying this more. And I thought, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And when you're doing what you're meant to do, things bloom. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a wonderful feeling. And so our work, I recognize myself and you, David, is helping people find who they are. I mean, if you don't know, life shows itself in a constant state of pain. It's not a specific problem. It's just, where did I go? You know? And that's what I help people with now. What's your purpose? What are you here to do? That's why I was excited with your podcast. When I looked at it, I'm like, this one is, there's some good stuff here that can wake people up. This is not like analyzing your problems, at least the way I work. That, for me, can be slow. Now, the story is important, but you are not just a bunch of thoughts. Because if that were the case, I think self-help books would have solved it for you. We need engagement with humanoids, because my tribe tends to try to solve all their problems by themselves at home with a book. And I'm like, you're lonely as dirt, and you've never been able to connect with people. Come work with someone, so we start that energetic flow again. And yeah, so it's not an intellectual process. So now, yes, I work with people around the world, Skype, group programs. And why are you here? Impact, significance, and meaning. I tell my clients, as long as you focus your whole life on those three things, you can't go wrong. Because people are afraid that, oh, what if I'm missing my calling? You know, maybe God wants me to be a botanist. I'm like, well, what if it's not so much a job description? You know, people think their calling is a job description.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you've noticed that, like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to be doing? You know, and that can cause so much angst. I'm like, get in here. So, meaning, purpose, and significance. Focus on that. Whatever pain point, whatever pleasure, it will guide you towards what is meant for you to live this life that you want. So now I'm just so excited. I never imagined, but now this is what I specialize in. So that's just my quick story from misery to almost not is sticking around to, folks, there's another way through this. Yeah. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a phenomenon that you're describing, and you actually use similar terminology. I call it depression with a small d. So it's not clinical depression, but if you think of the actual origins of the word depression, it's a lowering. It's a lowering of feeling, of emotion, of purpose, meaning, impact, all of the words that you're talking about there. And I think that is common across, I think clinical rates of depression are rising, but I think there is this rate of depression with a small d that is also rising as well, where intellectually things look fine, but there's just a feeling of, this isn't me, this isn't what I'm supposed to do.
Absolutely. And I think the rates of depression with a capital D are the true number of people who have a chemical dependency is a fraction of what are diagnosed. Because I have worked with people that, you know, they were clinically diagnosed, nothing was working except meds. I'm like, let's just try this. Don't stop your meds, but I'm pretty good at getting people off of them. But if they're there, I want them there, because I'm not a medical professional. I want to work in an integrative way with people who have your well-being. But yeah, the work of the spirit has not been brought in enough to our modern society. I feel like we're at a turning point in the so-called self-help literature. You got thousands of books written on how to improve your life. But I feel like the pieces, we're moving from knowledge into wisdom. You can't get wisdom out of a book as much. It's through people. It's through experiences. So if you have a lot of great books, wonderful. How are you living those things? By yourself at home? Or are you able to come out and talk to people and see how that feels? Because if you don't have good relationships with humanoids, it's a small d. There's just no way around it. If you don't have good relationships with friends, family, it doesn't have to be 100 of your best friends, but you have to have that. And if you don't, life will not be as full as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see a lot of people who've gotten burned. Maybe you've seen this in your work too, David. I don't know, but they're so hurt by what happened. They sort of made up their mind that they are meant to live a more solitary life, because it's easier. You don't have people in your stuff. You don't have people, you know, whatever. And I'm like, if you are meant to be a true hermit, this wouldn't bother you. You'd be groovy on a mountain all by yourself. The number of people that would be happy that way is fairly small. But if you're at home because it's just better than being around people, what if we helped you be able to connect with people so that you don't get bowled over by their problems, by their neediness? Because we have not understood energy. The mind is going, I have a belief about X, Y, and Z. Great. But what is the body's energy doing? Where are you getting that contracting feeling in your body when your mom walks in the room or whatever? So I feel that our work, this industry, this coaching or whatever you want to call it, it's moving from knowledge and insight into wisdom. And wisdom means people connection. There are a lot of people who are fabulous spiritual medicine people. They're a legend in their own bedroom. Like you can be a rock star in your own imagination, but the real work comes when you're around other humanoids.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of we must move in this direction, because it used to be that the wisest people, like what you're doing on the podcast, you could sit in a monastery by yourself and meditate and pray for humanity. At this point, given what's going on, David, would you not agree? We need monks out of the monastery.
Yeah. Within 2 meters of each other, but out of the monastery.
Yeah. Within social distancing or whatever, that's funny. That's funny. That's hilarious. But because that used to be the tradition, that the wisest, most spiritual people were secluded somewhere in a monastery, a convent, or whatever. And then it was just the masses left to themselves. I believe it's now come out and deal with me, myself, and I, which includes your mom, your parents, and be there for your community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's something else you're describing there as well that I wanted to get some distinction on. And this is something I've absolutely struggled with myself, talking about this kind of self-help, knowledge, intellect, shovel it in, and there'll be some
Yes.
that shovels in. And I feel there's this fine balance between I'm working on myself, I'm growing, and I'm improving, and that's something I absolutely recognize that I need to do. But are you doing things that are really doing that, or is it just creating the illusion that you're growing and developing? Because you can read 100 books and not change anything in your life.
Absolutely.
So where do you think the balance point is between recognizing that you're actually doing something that's effective in growing and developing, as opposed to just consuming stuff and not changing?
Yeah, and I'm such a great student at personal development, because I feel like this constant mantra of working on yourself, I'll just be bold to say, I think it's become a trap. I really feel that it's seductive. It's got people buying books and constantly working on yourself, because there's always something that you can improve, right? I mean, there's always something. If you look for it, it's not really too hard to find. And this constant preoccupation with self-improvement implies that the way you are now is not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate seduction trap. Because everyone is racing to try to be a better person. Everyone is trying to be better or improve. It's as if right now you're not good enough. Honestly, self-help has become a trap. Now, there's nothing wrong. There's very good reasons for being curious in a self-inquiry about, things you might have picked up from your parents, sure. But being present in life means being okay with that right now, meaning you don't ever have to pick up another self-help book. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to say another positive affirmation, visualization. What else do people do? All this stuff, which takes a lot of effort. And so life becomes a project. There's another way to move through this, which is saying, warts and all, Adele, David, everyone in the audience, you are fine exactly where you are. You don't have to do any more work. Be present with what you're feeling. Something hurts. Okay, well, we can be curious about it rather than trying to process what it means. Because I feel very strongly that in the coaching industry and this business that we're in, helping people move through that is about non-resistance to the present moment. If everything is framed as, if you just let that go, if you just think more positively, when are you going to let that story go? Like, although that's fine, it takes a lot of work because you have to keep doing it. So I find it very useful to be fully present. Yes, I've got a story about my mom treating me, whatever. Okay. I can hold that story and the present moment at the same time without going, oh, there you go. I need to go work on myself. And that's where I feel like the difference is. If I'm able to stay present with myself, with warts and all, with all my problems and all my neuroses, if I can do that without that nauseous, I need to fix myself, that's the direction to go. That's how you know you're doing your work. You're doing your work by staying with yourself while you do whatever. I don't know if that answers your question. I feel like people are working way too hard to process themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just intellectually interesting. Am I this way because my mom worked a lot and my dad wasn't around? Maybe. Am I this way because my older sister put me down? And maybe. Even if you know all that, how does that make you feel any better now? You just understand yourself better. Well, I need to be more positive. I'm like, that takes a lot of work. Full receptivity. That means being more open to your pain. And that's where nobody wants to go. But the pain is just here to get our attention. We need more stamina with people who can sit right in the moment with whatever's going on instead of constantly running. Otherwise, it's more Netflix, alcohol, sugar, all these things that we do to numb ourselves. And that's that little D you were talking about. I don't know if it makes sense, but this is what I'm noticing is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going from information and analysis and why I am a certain way into what's the next level. That stuff is useful, but it's not the end all be all. The answer is never in just one place. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just yoga. It's not just organic food. It's not just meditation. What happens is people pick the thing of their choice, the thing they're natural, and say, oh, everybody would be happy if you meditate an hour a day. Or, oh, no, everybody needs to go to yoga. And therapists, people can be addicted to therapy. You can be addicted to spiritual practice. You can be addicted to trying to figure out, there's a place for all of these, and you combine them all together in the moment, you get a much better result.
Mm-hmm. Something you've been saying again and again is talking about, well, how does it feel? Does that feel better? Does that feel right? And at the risk of asking a question that over intellectualizes this,
Yeah.
Where does that feeling come from? How do you develop that feeling for yourself?
One thing I am telling all my clients, and this is sort of get to the truth. The truth of what's happening will cause the body and your inner to calm a bit. And what's happening is when you feel crappy about something, the mind is usually telling yourself a story. Like, all right, I'll use a simple example. If a friend doesn't call you back, in 30 minutes after you left the voicemail, what does this mean? The mind starts going, I'm getting the silent treatment. He doesn't like me. I'm being blown off, and I'm starting to feel sick. And the pain starts. I'm being rejected again, right? It's starting to fire. Ask yourself, do you know that to be true? What is the truth here? Is it true that you're being rejected? Well, I don't know. I know it feels true because that happened to 3 other people you dated. But right now, do you know that you're being blown off? And usually there's a sense of, yes, yes, I can see the signs. And then it's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, go there. The truth is we don't know. And the mind hates that. And the mind's going to spin all kinds of stories that are usually painful. It's usually not a story of they haven't gotten back to you because they're off buying you a ring. It's never like, we go, oh, I'm getting, we don't know. And the mind is such a source of torment. So if you're feeling bad about something, first thing ask, is that true? Is it true that your mom hates you? I know it feels like it's true, but is it true? Do you know that when you're 99 years old, can you look back and say, yeah, most of the time what's causing us suffering is something we just don't know. If people go to the truth of what's going on, they'll feel a settling in their body. Like, well, I don't know. It's possible I'm getting blown off. It's possible he's busy. And just noticing the torture of these stories that the mind projects. And that's how I know I am making progress, because I'm getting out of the lies that the mind makes up. It spontaneously generates 10 different reasons why he hadn't called me back in 30 minutes, and they're all negative. When the reality is we don't know, because the mind feels lost when it doesn't know. It feels better if it can hang on to something, the truth. A lot of the interpersonal pain that I see with so many of my clients, we don't know what really happened. A lot of it is an assumption. And so when I ask them, do you know for sure that your brother hates you? And that's why you've been estranged for 10 years. We don't know. And go to the truth. The truth is always going to be something that will cause the body to relax a bit and set you free from this mind. Because more of the mind trying to fix itself, you'd be processing till the cows come home. And you might be wasting a lot of energy. It's totally okay if you've got mom issues. You can still enjoy the moment with a friend, and yeah, it's there. You don't have to be perfect or have fixed yourself to have a good life.
One thing that's apparent to me as we're talking so far, Adele, is you were talking in your story about having this social anxiety and always thinking, what's the thing that I have to do, say, be, tell in order to impress this person? It doesn't appear to me that you're socially anxious. It doesn't appear to me that you're overthinking what you're doing. There's a very free-flow, fluid expression to you. Where has that come from and how has it developed?
I've come a long way, David. Because watch me through the camera. And I don't know, on the podcast, people may not be able to see, but they can probably feel into in my work. I teach people presence work. So most people in Art of Feminine Presence work, we talk about, watch my energy. I'm going to send my energy up, and it's going to be slightly out of the body, right up here. And this is where most people talk. So if you're in a corporate environment and you met me at a networking event, and I'm going to be explaining to you what I do, my name's Adele, and I specialize in helping professionals who want to make a difference with impact, so they can attract more of the right kinds of partners and opportunities, the clients that they want. You're already getting an experience from me because I've changed my energy. And I'm pretty sure you can probably feel it through the camera.
Yeah, I have actually.
I'm not exaggerating. This is how I used to, right? So if you met me at a networking event or at the post office, this is where most people live. It's a very intellectual, I'm exchanging information, I'm telling you about me, I'm being pleasant, right? I'm not exaggerating. So now I'm going to change my energy, and people watching the broadcast will see. I'm going to drop my energy down into a place in my body. With men, we call this the Dantian Power Center. It's where, if you've ever been surfing or wrestling, it's a lower point in the body. And for women, we talk about the womb space. And women always go, really? I'm like, yeah, it's your mojo. It's your sensuality. And women go, we're going to go there. I'm like, yes, just try it, because this is where stability comes from. And so when I'm down here, I'm really not thinking so much about what I'm going to say next. I'm feeling a certain heat in my body. I'm feeling into your energy, David. I'm more present. And I have no idea what I'm going to say next, but you're probably experiencing me in a different way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so if you met me at a networking event, which you might actually remember what I said a little bit better. This is an experience of energy that most people who've been doing self-help and self-improvement are up here. They're describing their situation, but they're not really feeling anything. They can describe their emotions, but they don't feel them. If you drop in the lower body, I can feel everything here and stay present. It's not I got to be present. It's not an exertion energy. It's and this is what I work with women and men around the world. It's a experience in the body. If you couple this with all your self-help work, whew, things take off. And this is what I, run all sorts of online programs, because you don't have to be in the same room to do it. You notice. What did you feel as I was showing you different energies? What did you
Yeah.
notice?
Well, the first time in particular, it was, it's trying to put words to a feeling, isn't it? But there was, I suppose, a drop off. It just sort of felt the conversation had dropped off, and it wasn't like words weren't being exchanged and understood and processed. It just felt you'd kind of dropped off me a bit, like you'd backed off a bit.
And I was yapping probably twice or three times more words. And that's the thing with social anxiety, with people who are struggling to connect with humanoids. There's a tendency to either use more words, like I gotta make sure you understand me, my point, and I'm waiting for a gap in the conversation so I can blurt out some stuff. I mean, that was me. I didn't understand the energetic dance that was happening between people. I would read self-help books that tell you how to, place your body, and like nothing's more annoying to me than someone who's been to a reflective listening class. So what you're saying, David, is, and they repeat what you just said, you're like, oh my God. It's an artificial way to try to simulate communication, because up to now, people didn't understand energy. They understood concepts. If I repeat the last few words David said, he'll feel more supported. And you're just like, this is a technique. I feel manipulated. You're not listening to me. You're just waiting for me to stop talking so you can say something. I did all that. And I struggled to make friends. I didn't understand what I was doing wrong. And I was deeply lonely inside. So that's why now presence is being fully present, so something flows through you. We didn't even sketch what we were going to talk about on this podcast. And I thought, that's really lovely the way David does this. Usually podcasts, like there's a structure.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But it's not the only way to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and my hope is, and in this podcast of what you're doing with us talking, that people can have an experience. They're feeling into you. They're feeling into me. They're feeling into their experience witnessing. They're seeing an energetic loop here. They're feeling the energy of you and me, and also like a triangle. And so the podcast starts to become more memorable. Like I felt something there. I didn't learn any great new concepts. It's like I had an experience in my body. I saw something that happened, well, if people can actually see in, because if you send your energy, like it's hard for me. If I go up here again, this is where most people spend most of their day. And it's really amazing that we understand each other at all, because we're all up here and we have to use a lot more words to be understood. I'm not purposely trying to change my voice. I'm deliberately not trying to, but it's impacted. I feel a nervous tension in my body because I'm not home. I'm going to drop it down in my body. And so this is, if anyone needs to be on a stage, you're pitching an idea to your boss, you're on a date, the feminine and masculine on a date, or, it doesn't matter if you're hetero or gay or whatever, there's always going to be a dance of these polarities. And the more you're aware of where your own polarity is, you will feel more relaxed, magnetic. And this is useful on the dating scene too, because like I said, people are meeting in the middle because we don't know, we haven't understood energetic polarity.
Mm-hmm. This is something that I notice a lot in my industry of public speaking, is I'm always telling people, speak from the heart and not from the head. And it's really obvious when someone, I guess because public speaking amplifies the
Absolutely.
communication.
You can see
Yeah.
it a mile away on stage, can't you? You
Yeah.
can
If somebody's
feel it from the
speaking
back
from the head,
row.
yeah, you can just, there's so much tension that they're thinking, what am I going to say next? How am I going to say it? Where am I going to stand on stage as I'm
Let me
saying it?
hold my body a
What
certain way.
gesture am I
Yeah.
going to use?
Yeah.
And it just, it's great. It's grating as an audience member, and it's also exhausting as a speaker because you're doing so much
So,
cognitive load to try and maintain where you are and what you're doing.
and the problem with that is if you're so in your head trying to do it right, you can't feel the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You can't feel them feeling you. The energetic loop it's one way. It becomes more of a monologue, a broadcast. And with the speaker training, because I'm teaching a lot of people who speak on stages as well. I said, you've got to develop the ability to ping back. What is the audience sending you? Otherwise, you might as well just be broadcasting.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even need them in the room. But people go to hear a speaker for an experience, not a lecture. And so they want to know that you're hearing their energetic response, even though they're not saying anything. Listen, they'll tell you. And if you're so caught up with all this, you can tell that the speaker's in their head. Like if you look in their eyes, there's nothing, anything there. They're sort of. I mean, do you notice this too, David? I mean,
Yeah. Yes. It. I know this sounds really silly, but they look like they're doing public speaking.
yeah,
They're trying so
yeah,
hard to do public speaking rather
yeah.
than just speaking in a public environment.
Be yourself. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're doing a speech, obviously there's some structural things, the common
Mm.
play, the importance of the topic. But aside from that, people go for an experience. And what I've noticed is that people try so hard to perform. Like, hey, everybody, who here would like to make more money? Can I see a
Yeah,
show?
yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my God. And I think at one time, maybe that was the model, but I think audiences now are way too smart for that. Even on broadcasts like this, I hate the standard webinar format where it's just, you can tell, like, I don't know, some coach out there said, we all do it this way, and it's lacking a certain freshness, so
Hmm.
that's just me. Oh, here comes the story. Here's the personal story. Well, I didn't. It's the way that. Oh, now I got to be vulnerable. Oh, there's a vulnerability.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it's so overdone. And there is a way to share a story that doesn't feel like that.
Hmm. What are you doing on a regular basis to have this more energetic approach, do you have any practices or habits that you do that perhaps people listening to this can also utilize in order to develop this within themselves?
Yes. Well, I do a lot of uh, practices. Some of them come from, they're different schools, but a lot of them have to do with embodiment. Um, there are different kinds of meditation. There's some meditations that send you out. Ooh, I like the ones I like the ones that have you drop into your body. Like, how sensual can you get in the moment? Like, what can you hear? What can you smell? Because that puts you more here in the present. The mind has a tendency to wander. And so, because I had such social anxiety earlier on, I was never present. You're talking to me, I'm already trying to guess what to say next. And so, yeah, a lot of meditation, staying present in my body. And I do some feminine practice work. Exercise helps. Um, Learning to speak almost from an improv place. Like, I don't know if you do this with your clients, but a lot of my clients are so afraid of making mistakes. I deliberately say, I want you to stand over there, get in your womb space or power center, and just speak. What do I talk about? Whatever comes in. They're getting people to tap into the flow. And then there's a certain joy in the moment. And that helps me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the place where you probably went when you wrote your book. Right? It just sort of came down, right? And
Yeah.
that book picked you,
Mm-hmm.
right? The book picks who, and it flows. It doesn't have to be this gut-wrenching, hard process when you are surrendered to a bigger experience. And so if you can embody this with people, you allow the person in front of you to have an experience of improv, creative, energetic flow rather than data transfer of information. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what most people are looking for.
Yeah. We've been talking so far about kind of local experience, your story, and the things that you have worked on and work on people with. And I'd like to expand this energy, shall we say, into the global situation and
Absolutely.
reveal the elephant in the room that I think we've only alluded to so far, which of course is our current coronavirus situation. How has coronavirus been affecting you?
Well, I originally was working half and half with people live in person, and about 60% live, 40% were online. So I have group programs for people, small, some of them are bigger, some of them are biz dev for healers that want to make more money because I've done it. So I'm like, let me show you a few things because I some of the business coaching out there gets people a little wigged out. Um, so once this virus hit, I had to move all my in-person clients online. How it's affected me, I'm at my desk more. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah.
I'm forced to explore all these gadget like Zoom, different things Zoom is now offering, and breakout rooms and all this stuff. What else? Personally, it's I think we're in a unique period of time. It's actually still, meaning I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but there's a certain it's like the world is on pause right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody's,
definitely.
nothing's moving, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
paralyzed. And there's this space in here that for medicine people, which I think you are one, it's about going deeper. If you go off into the head and get scared like everybody else, well, that's not very productive. But what is this time calling you to do? Perhaps it's writing the next book. Maybe it's connecting with clients in a different way, social media, whatever. But I would like to use this time in a more creative way. And yes, I absolutely feel for everyone impacted. It's not like I'm just like, oh, this is great. No, I mean, there are a lot of people suffering, and my heart really goes out to them. And it's also occurred to me, David, that this world is now approaching the point where we cannot solve these problems all by ourselves. me myself, I'm with my millions. I heard that was the prime minister is sick.
In the UK, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, Prince
mm,
Charles. I mean,
yeah,
doesn't matter how much you have.
yeah,
This is not a problem that you can wall yourself off from, no matter how many millions you have, because now your wellness is intricately related to your staff, their families, the people on the street, because, so it's a great equalizer in helping humanity realize we can't keep doing the us and them.
yeah,
For example, here in the US, I've been frustrated. We knew this virus was coming. Everybody knew it was coming, but there was a certain lack of imagination. Like, we had someone in charge who thought, oh, it'll magically go away. And with each passing day, not even weeks, oh, now it's in Europe. Now it's in Italy. Well, what did you think was going to happen? Of course it's going to come here. So I think it's just reminded me how important our work is. Community, I think your podcast is spectacular. Keep doing it. I'll invite you on mine as well. We can spread the word so that we can form a community of people helping others. Otherwise, it's exhausting. I don't want to do this all by myself. I want to have a community of people, and everyone is serving in a different way. Awesome. I've got some yoga people that I'm like, get online and talk to my people. Or meditation. There's some things I'm not as good at. I'm not a yoga girl. I like it, but I'm not certified.
yeah,
I love meditation, but I don't have, it's that deep of a meditation training. So a lot of times when I'm online, I'll invite one of them on. It's better for everyone. And we can all support each other. So it's a long-winded way to say, let's use this time wisely. And I'm here of service. If anybody wants to connect me, I'm yapping my head off. I'm hoping, I know I'm here to reach the right person. There are going to be some people listening who are probably going to say, I don't know what she's talking about. And I'd be like, I'm not the teacher for you, right?
yeah,
But if there's someone out there that goes, oh my gosh, this is my tribe, David, yes, I welcome them to connect with me. We can build a community. I don't know, David, can people text the UK, in the UK, if you text here
mm.
to work? I don't know if the international.
Yeah, I think it does. I think you need the international codes. So for the UK, we're +44, so you have to put +44 before anything, and I presume the US has their international code.
Well, I have a tool, one of these gadget softwares. There's a number. If people want to reach me, you can, Adele at safehavenhealing.net. You can write me an email. But I have this little code. If people can try texting me at 66866. Just write the name. Text Adele, Adele, to 66866. Now it works in the U.S. My understanding is that it should work overseas, but I don't know. But if it doesn't, people are welcome to just Google my name, connect to me. I'm all over on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that. And what's going on so we can support each other now more than ever. Now is not the time for all of us to go to sleep.
Yeah.
No. More. Because I have a feeling that after this virus comes and goes, there's something is changing underfoot. Do you not feel it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What are you noticing? I'm curious. We can compare notes.
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, there's lots of things. People are questioning how we've always done things, and I think that started with something very basic with your commuting to work. Why do we have to work in offices? Why do we have to congregate when actually everyone is working from home and 80% of things are actually working in certain industries? If you're in your, for yourself from your traditional corporate kind of career, pretty much everything can be done at home nowadays. So why are we going into these big offices? So there's a very basic questioning of why are we doing things this way? I think education as well is going to have a similar thing for us. I don't know about the US schools, universities, colleges, they're all closed and they're now providing online teaching. well, why weren't we doing that in the first place? Why was
We didn't
that
have the
so difficult?
imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, the imagination just couldn't go there. We knew it was until we have to do it. It's just a theory
Mhm.
or a concept. Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think there's some basic questionings of assumptions at even those kind of sort of superficial level kind of things we could say. And then I think that's going to lead to a deeper questioning of assumptions of why do I have to live my life this way? And that can produce a whole load of different answers and even more questions on top of that question as well.
It'll be interesting, once this virus passes, how the conversation changes on podcasts, because there's going to be a lot of revisiting. Um, I do not feel that we were designed to just live remotely like this. We definitely need to see each other.
Yeah.
And that's been the problem with a lot of texting. No one ever, oh, we're in a Facebook friend, but you're not really having a normal conversation with people. But I think we can use technology so we're not burning so much fossil fuels and driving long distances and clogging up the air, when a lot of this could be done much simpler, so that we spend intentionally our time with humanoids, like in person, in a more intentional way, instead of just ignoring people at the water cooler. Like in an office, people are trying to do this, right? Because it's set up with so much distraction. Well, now we're going to set intentional places where people set these things aside and talk to each other. I think that's my hope, because I think the little d is because of lack of connection.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I had to summarize all the stuff that I do, purpose, meaning, impact, why are you here on the planet, your special sauce, your gift, what do you want to stand for in the world? It is related to connection. And if you don't find your way, little d will start. Because you were meant for more.
Do you have any insights, practices, strategies that you think are going to help people during this
Yes.
time that you could suggest to help people stay healthy, sane, and living life as normally as they possibly can?
I will demonstrate, and you can do this with me, what I just did a few moments ago. For women, it's about going down to womb space, and for men, it's going to Dantian. So what I want you to, I'm inviting everybody right now. We'll just do a mini
Here we go.
60-second
Interactive.
class. Yeah. I want you to imagine, women, I want you to drop down into your lower belly, into the pelvic bowl, about 3 or 4 inches inside your body. Put a light there. And for men, it's similar, but it's about an inch higher. Men are usually a little taller, so the center of balance is a little bit higher. For men, it'd be about 2 inches below your navel. See if you can feel this part of your body from the inside out. Not just have your attention on it, but literally step into this body, part of your body. It's as if you went down into the tissue. You took an elevator ride down from your head, and it went all the way down there, and the door opened, and poof, you stood out, got out, and you're standing inside your body. 3 or 4 inches below the navel for women, maybe 2, 2.5, 3 inches for men. Men, you know this point because it's the balance point you feel in taekwondo, on surfboard, boxing, wrestling. Nobody goes into boxing standing stiff straight up. It's a lower point of, it's like you're surfing. Yeah. And just amp it up. And you can imagine energy coming down through the bottoms of your feet into the ground. And you're sort of sipping energy from the earth. And it lands into this power center. And amp it up so it's like a bonfire. And you'll notice that it doesn't take a lot of energy to get here. It's not a squeeze feeling. It's a dropping down feeling. And look for a place that's still. That's the center of your mojo. It's not a sleepy still, it's a quiet. There may even be for some people, they feel a little bit of an intensity there because it's a lot of life force, but it's quiet. If you're thinking, it's probably your brain. Look for a spot that just doesn't move inside. And breathe. I tell all my folks, imagine that your hips have gills, like a fish. And just notice that when you do this, the rest of you becomes still without you having to clear your mind. It just happens. How does that feel to you, David?
Feels nice. Relaxed. Calm, but even as I'm saying that word relaxed, it's not actually as if the energy is dropping, it's just
right.
Settling.
And if anyone is watching you on the camera right now, like I am, to the audience, notice David's eyes. Your eyes are different now. And see, this is why I work with people in groups, because you have no idea. You cannot see your own energy, but we can through the camera. Your eyes have changed. First of all, they look intensely blue now. Not that they weren't blue before. There's a different quality. And when people are in this state, they're more naturally magnetic. You will be able to do twice as much stuff without being as tired. The problem with leading a life only through the heart, which a lot of compassionate people do, you get exhausted. You have one client and you're gone. Or 6th and 7th chakra, and you're not even here. You're just sort of wafting around. It's all good in the end. This is all by divine plan. And on the ground, money's a problem, relationships are a problem. There's that split. So I encourage everybody, bring the energy down, down, down. The martial artists have always known this. So, and Kundalini, the yoga people know this. The problem has been people only do it on the mat. Oh, I feel great with yoga but the minute I get off the mat and go to the car, my energy's already up here. I'm thinking about all the crap I gotta do. This is yoga in the moment all day long. And so there's an intensity, there's an alertness, but it's still. And it's not exhausting. So that would be the practice I want everyone to start doing 10 times a day. You will not master this overnight. If people want to really get good at this, their lives will transform. I welcome them to reach out to me. You can try texting me 66866 from the UK. Text Adele, Adele. Let's see if it works. If that doesn't work, they can connect to me online. I have online programs where we do this. You get witnessed through the camera so that you can really make this thing called life much faster, much better, without having to process. I'm done with processing. I processed the heck out of myself, and I was never any happier.
Do you think there's any opportunities in the coronavirus situation?
I do. I just wish it didn't come at such a high cost. But humanity being the way it is at our level of consciousness, we don't do anything till we have to. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for people to wake up. You have your choice. You can isolate, or you can reach out and help others. It's an opportunity for new ways of doing business, like you mentioned, new forms of leadership that's not so hierarchical that I could go on because I work with a lot of business people on leadership. The hierarchy mindset came from the military. You know, when you've got 100 people going into battle, you don't want them thinking for themselves. You want everybody, we're going to go this way, right? The general says this way. Well, that works in war to keep people alive. But if you really want the most out of everyone, It's got to be a much more fluid, lateral situation. So I think this whole coronavirus is because there's no hierarchy. Nobody knows, right? So we're having to work more laterally with each other. I think there's opportunity for business leaders to discover new ways of business. I think there's opportunity for individuals to reflect on how they've been living their lives. There are going to be people losing their jobs that are just thanking God because they hated it to begin with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I call them the corporate refugees. I'm like,
Yeah.
come talk to me. I've been there. I can get you going towards something much better. So there are people that are probably very happy to be laid off. And there are people who are scared to death. Right? So any sort of, this is an incredibly rich time, but I do recognize it's also difficult for many people.
Mm-hmm.
And, I do feel for them. We'll make it. Humankind will make it through this. We made it through 9/11. We made it through wars. It's just right now.
Yeah. So I'd like to finish off on a positive note, and I'd like to explore a few big topics. And the first of these is gratitude. What are you grateful for in life, Adele?
Oh, I'm grateful that I didn't give up. Because like I said, there was a time where I didn't really think it was worth it. And had I just offed myself, I would not have known what's possible for me. I never imagined I'd be talking to people around the world and broadcasting from here and there and speaking on stages. I mean, I didn't see myself doing that. I'm thankful for technology, for us to connect.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day in Atlanta. I'm thankful for health. My family is well. My 2 cats are happy. Every day I have a gratitude journal, and I'm just full of gratitude no matter what happens. How about you? What are you doing?
I'm grateful for this time, actually, and I mean that in terms of the time that we suddenly find ourselves in abundance of, because so many of us complain about not having the time. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been writing, I've been filming, I've been setting up these interviews, I've been thinking about what's my role in all of this, and I've been able to do that because this time has been given to us, and it's maybe been given to us in an uncomfortable and scary, concerning way, but nonetheless we have this time. So try and make the most of it in your own particular way, and that's what I've been doing. So I'm grateful for this time. I'm grateful for the technology. Another thing I was saying is, can you imagine trying to do this 100 years ago and self-isolate? It would just be a completely different experience. We have a privileged isolation. We have our internet, we have our home delivery, we have our electronics. We turn on the tap and the water still comes up. We turn on the switch and the light still comes on. Like, that is such a privileged isolation to have.
We live such opulent lives compared to other parts of the world. It's amazing. Yeah, the clean water, food that's reasonably healthy and not, infected with viruses and stuff. And yeah, we have a lot to be thankful for.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're the two big ones that have been consistently coming up for me. There's the little day gratitudes and things that you notice, but the big ones for the moment are the time that we've been given, and the luxury that we still have, even when we feel that so much has been taken away from us. And in some respects it has, but in other respects, not really. We've still got people, we've still got comfort, we've still got security in terms of living in our houses. I know things aren't very secure in terms of the trajectory of where we're going, but in a lot of other ways we have security.
And I've been exploring the difference between gratitude and appreciation. One thing I've noticed is if I'm appreciating something in the moment, it's a little bit more active. Otherwise, gratitude starts to sound rote. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for my car. And a lot of my clients will do that, but the vibe is not there. They're just reciting. But I'm like, what are you appreciative of this moment? And I can say, I'm appreciating the way the light is coming through the window right now on this sort of foggy but half sunny Atlanta day. And the blooms are just now starting to open, and it's just this golden light makes me happy. So I like to remind myself to find something right now in the moment instead of I'm happy for my car, I'm happy, that kind of thing. That helps me because otherwise I tend to just recite
Yeah.
and challenge myself. I'm thankful for these crayons. I love crayons and my favorite color, Yeah, that helps me.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good distinction actually. It's something that I've been balancing a little bit more recently, or being more mindful of getting that distinction between, I do have a gratitude journal, I do write out my 3 things every single day that I'm grateful for, but I always try and find something different, and I try to find something
fresh.
smaller or something novel. And sometimes my wife's next to me and she's like, have you written that you're grateful for me? And I'm like, well, I am grateful for you, but if I keep on doing that, it becomes a rote pattern.
Yeah,
What I'm grateful
and it doesn't
for.
mean I've
Yeah.
forgotten about you. Yeah, you didn't put me in your gratitude journal.
Yeah. So it'd be something like, I'm grateful for, as you said, the way that you saw the sun hitting a tree at that particular time, because that was just in that moment, and you saw it then, and you might actually never see it again, and you might have only just seen it for a moment.
Just that one
fleeting thing.
I'm grateful that the internet didn't burp while we were talking, because with
Yeah.
this 10 billion people are using the internet, it's been a little wiggy, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, let's see how this interview goes, but it's been fine.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy about that, because otherwise there's nothing I can do to control the T1 line or the pipe into the house, and I'd be like, sorry, but the neighborhood's all online, gaming and all that, but I think we're okay. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Moving from gratitude into, speaking of my wife, moving from gratitude into love, I think this is a great opportunity, as we've been talking about, to be more connected in the world right now. How do you think we can bring more love into the world right now?
Wow, let me sit with that. I think the two are related. Appreciating moments with people, appreciating people. And this becomes so much easier when people are out of their heads. I can't appreciate when I'm thinking about what I'm going to say to you, but when I'm down here, I can appreciate this is fun, connection with another human. And then that spreads a good feeling. And love, I feel like if we try to be loving, it's a lot of work. I feel like it's our natural state. If if we peel off all this other crap, it just happens. We don't have to make ourselves more loving. At least that's how I am. I think people were programmed to be loving until they learned how not to be. I don't know. That's one that a philosopher or people who spend their lives writing about this. I honestly think that love is a natural state, and if we're not feeling it, it's a bunch of stuff layered on top.
I was talking just a few moments ago about how I've been using this time and prioritizing different projects, and I can't remember if we said it in the interview or before we started recording. I think it was before we started recording that a lot of my kind of speaking and external engagements have just disappeared. They're gone.
Sure.
And a lot of my plans for this year, already 3 months in, are just being scrapped. I'm going, that's not happening. That's not working.
Yeah.
So I'm really adapting on the fly and thinking about, well, how does 2020 now look like for what I'm doing with this massive situation that came out of absolutely nowhere, really?
Yeah.
For you, Adele, what are your plans for the rest of the year? What are you going to be working on?
Well, I have a lot of things online. Group offerings. I think one time I had a Zoom call, it was a few days ago, 70 people on the line. I've never had that many people on Zoom. I didn't know Zoom could support it, but it worked. So I was very grateful about that. And so, yes, I'm really thinking of virtual communities. I used to be like, hey, virtual communities, because I'm thinking of Facebook groups, and I'm done with that. it's a facsimile, but if we can find ways to actually connect in this thoughtful way, maybe that could be useful. I'm running some feminine presence groups for women. If they're interested, if you want to discover your own sensuality as a woman, give me a shout. I've got people from all over the world. These are for women that are tired of feeling invisible. They feel like they've had to become kind of masculine. Remember, I told you people are meeting in the middle? Men don't feel particularly juicy either. And it's because we don't know about energetic polarity. So when we need commonality, like in a marriage, you need commonality for otherwise it's a hot mess. Like in terms of goals, values, where you want to live and all that. There has to be some, mutual agreement. But then we also need polarity because that's what makes things different from just a friendship. And a lot of people, how do we do this? So I work with a lot of women on this attraction factor. So it's not a manipulative thing, how to find a man. It's more, can you turn this energy on? And children will love it. Dogs will love it. It's a quality. So I spend a lot of time online with leaders. They call it stress. Oh, yes, I'm going to help you with your stress. But it's really more finding this innate quality. Impact, significance, and meaning. Just go there. And a lot of times, if you knew what it was, you would have done it already. So if you don't know, let's have a conversation. Because you've done what you know. So if it's still not working, come and get some other ideas. So I'm doing that it'll be all online probably for 2020. And then you're like me for 2021. Do we want to go back to, well, maybe, but more will be opening up.
Yeah.
So, because I don't know how long we'll be in this situation. I don't know what's projected over there. But here they're saying it's probably going to be another few months.
Yeah, we've officially got 3 weeks, and we'll see how it goes. And I don't think...
Really?
Wow. But I think they're just saying that to try and please people, to be honest. I think we've got 6, 9, or 12 weeks, which would be your 2 to 3 months of stringent stuff.
Yeah.
And I think after that we'll be drip feeding it off again, but there will still be a difference in how we're doing things. So yeah, I think this will be the best part of the year, if not actually the entire year. This is going to be something that we are experiencing, that society has changed as a result.
And I think this is such an important time for people to rise, for clients to look you up, for clients to look me up. Let's have private conversations. If people want to talk to me about, are we a fit? I don't know. I don't know if I can help you. Let's have a conversation. Same with you, David. The opportunity now for people to do their deep work. That's why I'm telling everybody, don't waste this time. If you are on pause, use this time. What do you want to be doing next? Do you really want to be going back to that job? What isn't working? Because before, it was always constant distraction. I got to take my kids to this soccer game. I need to do it. Was an excuse, really. But now that that's peeled away, you're sitting with me, myself, and I. Use this time wisely. Meditation. Work with a mentor or a coach. Do your inner journaling, your gratitude journal. Work it. And this time could be the best time ever. The most productive time. You might look back on it and go, geez, that was awesome. I wish we could have that again. Yeah. Not that the virus, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is going to be a very significant historical event. I think people will genuinely look back and do documentaries and books on how this affected economies, societies, cultural norms, individual norms. I think it's a moment of history we're living through.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think your podcast, because you're doing quite a bit of them, will be a great documentation. Like, where in this period did this particular podcast happen, right?
Yeah.
And how did it compare? You'll see a progression. And anyone who's following me on Facebook will see the same thing. I just put out something today that was pretty goofy. But as more starts to unfold, our awareness will change, that the conversation will change. It's not going to stay the same. more, and we're just going with the flow. And if anyone out there wants to have a conversation with me, how I can support, I don't know. Let's have a conversation to see if we're a fit. I'll send you my info. I guess, it's on
It'll be on the episode, yeah.
I do have 3 clients, 3 or 4 that are in the London area. So they've been telling me what's going on. One of them works pretty high up in the government, and it's interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I was very sad to hear, you got royalty that are sick now. Let's hope that Camilla, is that her name?
Yeah, Camilla's Charles' wife. Yeah.
I hope that she's all right.
Yeah.
And I hope that, the 2 princes and, wow, who would have guessed?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think this will be a significant moment that defines the next century. And my next question kind of focuses in on that. I want you to imagine that you've got a young child in front of you, someone who's really going to inherit the changes that come as a result of all of it.
Yeah.
They're very young, 4 or 5 years old, and you're going to say something to them that prepares them in some way for the life that they're about to live. What would you be saying to that child?
Well, what came to me first was, we're so sorry, but like we've left you a mess. I feel like I have to apologize on behalf of our crazy president. But I would say, that's a great question. I would say be curious and open. Just staying curious and open. Just do that. And that already will pull in the experiences, the people, the guidance that you need. Information is of limited value after a certain point, but as long as you just stay curious and open in the wonder of everything, stick with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think somewhere down the line, people just started to close. And so, yeah.
Moving from the beginning of life to the end of life, and this kind of touches upon your 3 words: impact, significance, meaning. I want you to imagine that you're at the end of your life, Adele, and you're looking back over the time that you've been given here on Earth. What legacy do you want to have left during your time here?
I would want to hope that I had a good time, that I helped a few people, and those 2 things are enough. Because I think it's more important that, if I put myself first rather than, I'm going to save the world, I think because I think that happens sometimes. People feel like they're so caught up with saving other people that they're not able to stay fully present. I want to know at the end of my life that I pursued what I wanted to do, and I explored things that were meaningful to me and shared it with people along the way, and that it made an impact. My purpose was really to discover me. My purpose was always to discover me, and then I found parts of myself and had more to share with people. I'd be very happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Adele, for the people who've been listening to this conversation and they've resonated with your story, with your insights, your philosophies, with the exercise that we did halfway through, and they want to find out a little bit more about who you are and what you do, you've mentioned a couple of things already. Where would you be directing people to go?
Well, you can go to safehavenhealing.net. Safehaven Healing is 3 words. .net. .com is somebody else. Or you could just Google my name, Adele Wang, W-A-N-G, and I'm all over Instagram, all the social media stuff, all those channels. And everything starts with just a simple hi, where you can consume some of the videos I have out and feel out. And I always know, and maybe David, you're the same way, people find us. They know if we're right or not. I don't really do a whole lot of marketing because I'm not against marketing, but I always know for the person who's resonating out there, they'll know. They'll go like, David's the one for me, or and it's about me letting them know I'm here And so, yes, you're dealing with stress, overwhelm. You'd like to find your purpose. Why am I here? And so that you can, it's usually make more money, better relationships, and better health. Those things are related. But yeah, adelewang.com, safehavenhealing.net. I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these things. Or you can text me, text ADELE to 66866. I really want to know if it'll work. It sends you an automatic email that says, click here to schedule a conversation. So I think it'll be interesting to see if it works.
Yeah. Well, Adele, I'd just like to thank you for joining me today. I think very topically for what we've been talking about, I've loved your energy. We've been talking about energy a lot, and I've loved the energy that you've brought in.
I've enjoyed I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed your broadcast and your other podcast, and the way you described your book. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like a great book. And I'm writing a book too, but it's a suspense thriller. I decided, I'm going to pack every neuroses I've seen in people and put it in this book. And so I'm working on a book as well. And I've got a blog where I post case stories of clients and things like that if people want to read that. But just the easiest way is just to Google me or text me or go to my website and, just connect.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Adele.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this.
And that. To continue to help you through this isolation period, I've decided to open up my Author Your Life Academy for free for the next 3 months. Author Your Life is my online educational community where you can access training sessions, workshops, and question and answers, and connect with other people around the world who are going through this situation and trying to make the best of things. The Academy normally costs $27 a month to subscribe, but for the next 3 months, I'm going to open that up for free. Essentially, you're getting a 3-month free trial of the platform. To access the Author Your Life Academy, go to authoryourlife.org/academy, and when prompted, enter the code CORONA in block capitals. Yes, what else would the code be? CORONA in block capitals, and that will take your $27 subscription down to $0 for the next 3 months. The Academy is where I'm going to be focusing a lot of my content during this difficult time. It's where I'm trying to bring people together to help and support each other as we go through this period of isolation, of fear, of uncertainty. I hope the Academy is something that will be able to help you too during this situation. So if you want to come in and join us, as I said, go to authoryourlife.org/academy, and when you sign up, enter the code CORONA, and that will give you 3 months for free. It's my gift to you to try and help and support during this time as best I can. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it hugely if you could head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the podcast. With your review, please be as honest and detailed as you can be, because with honest and detailed feedback, that helps me to adapt and grow this podcast to most serve you, the listener. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you aren't going to miss any of the future episodes that we've got lined up for you. Until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen, and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. So go out today and write yourself a beautiful story.